Redstor, and I'm here to talk to you about backup and disaster recovery. Just to give you a bit of a background on Redstor, we were founded in 1998, specialising in data management and protection. We currently protect over 12,000 schools in terms of cloud backups, work with 75 local authorities, and as you may be aware, we are Capita's only approved backup provider for SIMS, FMS and Discover. We're also ISO 27001 and 9001 accredited, which is information security and quality assurance. So, the challenges of backup and disaster recovery. One of the main challenges for you all is the fact that data is exploding. Year on year, data is growing at an average 40%. That means every 2 years your data is doubling. The funny thing is, a lot of that data is ROC data, up to 70% in fact, which is redundant, obsolete and trivial. There's also unstructured data, BYOD, which is coming into your environments. And data's on the move. It's coming from all manner of places. It could be 365, it could be Google Apps, it could be SIMS in the cloud. And the big question for you all is, how do you store, manage and protect that data? Another key challenge we're seeing in the market at the moment is ransomware. I'm sure you're all aware. There are an estimated 4 million different ransomware viruses in terms of strains. It's estimated that the cost to small to medium-sized businesses is at 75 billion so far. That's in ransoms paid as well as the cost of downtime. I'm sure you're all aware of OnACoin. That affected 300,000 organisations in a matter of days across 150 different countries. And I'm sure you're all aware 2016 is the year of ransomware, based on the fact that there's an increase in attacks of 3,500%, as well as an increase in strains of 600%. Another key challenge for you all is compliance. We've all had a talk today in terms of GDPR. That is the main one on the cards at the moment, but that is going to replace the Data Protection Act, which is enforced by the ICO, as I'm sure you're all aware. You also have the school's financial value standards, which essentially, under point 25, says you have to have a secure offsite backup of your critical information systems on a daily basis. Now, under GDPR, we've already established it's going to be 4% of global revenue, or up to 20 million. Now, you may be aware that TalkTalk were fined £400,000 a couple of weeks ago for a breach in 2015. Under GDPR, that would have been 70 million that they would have been fined. Now, the challenges with traditional backup and disaster recovery solutions. I'm not going to read through all of these, but I think it's good to establish what I mean by traditional. And I mean on-site disk-to-disk solutions, or even tape, which some of you may still be using. Now, just to pick a couple of these out, we've got these services sometimes are unreliable. Tapes fail, disks fail. There needs to be redundancy in place for your backups as well. There's limited scalability. You may not be able to slide another drive into your storage tray. You may have to buy a new tape drive because your tape capacity is over-exceeded what you require. And some of these are time-consuming to manage, remembering to change tapes, and some of these aren't fully automated services. And the most important thing is the speed of backup, but not just that, the speed of recovery. It's all about getting your data back. Let's say, for example, you need to restore a small database which is within a tape backup. You have to restore that entire tape before you can extract the information that you need. So, addressing these challenges. There's two key things that you need to do when you're looking to address these challenges. One, look at the technology. Also, the service provider that you are going to work with. They need to be efficient. They need to reduce your backup times, recovery times. make it scalable for you, and that's up or down. You can't return a SAN after you've used it for 3 years and you don't actually need the amount of storage that you thought you may require. But with the cloud service, you can reduce the data volume year on year as and when required. It needs to be compliant with the school's financial value standards to get a secure offsite backup of your critical information systems on a daily basis. It needs to be resilient, reliable, secure, and offsite. So choosing the right service provider, you need to challenge your service provider on all of these points, whether they have secure UK data centres or EU. They retain 2 copies. Ultimately, service providers are not immune to failures as well, as we all saw with the AWS going down not too long ago. And does it work? Trial it before you buy. You should never use a service provider unless you have already used the technology or tried it to understand whether it will actually meet your needs, especially when it comes to backup. So questions to ask your service provider. I'm not going to teach you all the subjects. These are just some of the questions that we would urge you to ask your service providers when you are looking at cloud backup and disaster recovery. So, I'm going to move on to the interesting part of the presentation. I've got a colleague with me called Daniel Sapseed. He's from the Academy Celsi and is going to talk you through cloud services in a real-life disaster environment.
Right, hello everyone, my name is Dan Sapseed. I'm the IT manager at the Academy Celsi. As you're probably all faced with as well, the old legacy take backup system that I had in place was causing me lots of time to make sure that it was working properly and all my backups were nice and safe and secure. My backups were regularly taking 2 full days for the full one over a weekend, and it was regularly failing on certain files. It was requiring me to dial in at weekends, evenings to rectify these faults so that the backups could continue. The advantages of moving to the cloud, it's simple, it just works. I haven't had to touch it at all in the 2 years nearly now I've been using this software. End-to-end encryption. When I had to do my restore, I got my encryption password wrong 3 times. My heart was going because those guys can't get into it at all. So if I hadn't remembered that, I'd have had no data at all. No hardware cost. If I want more space, I phone them up, send them an email, and they can increase the storage instantly. And it works the other way as well. Like if I want to decrease it, the same type of thing. As it says there, incremental backups take less than an hour, and I get an email every morning to tell me the status of all the servers, they're fully backed up, and if they missed anything. The support is 24/7. I use this after the fire to help with the restore. One of their lead engineers came down and supported me with the full restore on site. So now to the disaster. That was my school in August of this year. My server room was about there. So there was no chance of anything surviving that. The 21st of August, I got a phone call at 8 o'clock in the morning. Your school's on fire. I was like, yeah, very funny. Are you still there I'm from the night before? It turned out it wasn't. It was a contractor, unfortunately, on the roof that accidentally started the fire. All on-site infrastructure for IT was completely destroyed. 80% of the school was gone. Yeah, and the only thing that was left standing was there was a few maths classrooms. We're quite a small school, only 400 students, but the community was brilliant. We were lent the use of the local scout huts, town halls, the local campsite that backs onto our field. I'm lent us their hall for the first six weeks so we could continue to teach the students in the community without having to bus them to another area. So that's after all the flames were put out. So it's quite a shocking state of affairs that I walked into on the morning. And there you can just about make out the twisted steel server racks there. So we covered the critical data for 2 hours, in 2 hours over a 40 meg broadband connection. so I could do the bare bones recovery and start to build up my new virtual server environment. All data was restored within 8 to 10 hours. This was done off a USB hard drive that Redstor provided to me for that purpose, and it took that long because of the limitations on the USB hard drive. As soon as I got the first service back up and running, I could then start providing information to the senior team while I'm back at the school just to start the process of contacting the students and letting them know what was happening. Knowing that the data was all there and secure and restored so quickly, it allowed me to get on with the other jobs I needed to deal with in rebuilding the school from scratch. Didn't lose any files at all, apart from the servers I'd chosen to not back up, like the print servers and the Windows updates servers, because they were just not worth the time and effort in backing them up. So my next step, this is not on the backup now, this is just some things that I've learned from my experience I thought I'd pass on to you guys in the same role, in case, God forbid, the same thing ever happens to any of you lot. The first day, from 8 in the morning till 6 at night, I was on the phone constantly. I drained my battery twice on my phone, to the IT directors at the trust, suppliers trying to find new hardware and equipment, purchasing new laptops and projectors, I'm getting the phones diverted because all my phones were ISDN and the old copper phone lines, so I was trying to get them diverted to a cheap Tesco's mobile that I purchased in the local shop. And then I spent weeks on the phone with loss adjusters and insurance companies justifying every single purchase that I had to make to get the school working again. Now, a more bit of advice. I was asked for lots of weird things in the first month after the fire. One thing that I found that will help people in scenario is a list of suppliers with what service they provide. In case I was on holiday, no one else would know who to contact for what service to get things put in place to get the ball rolling with phones, broadband, servers, backups. So that is now on an encrypted memory stick at a local primary school to us. It's part of the same MAT as myself, but it could be any school. And you can do a reciprocal agreement, so you've got access to the information easily at another site if you need to. Oh, press the wrong button. There we go. A complete list of all students' contact details would also have been useful. Because the SIMS database was backed up into the cloud, I had no physical access to students' addresses, contact details. So to try and send letters out to parents, it took us until the SIMS server was restored before I could print off a spreadsheet and email it across to the team to start sending letters out from another school. And staff as well, we had to rely on who had whose numbers and share the phone numbers around the staff. And the final thing is a full inventory. They didn't just ask me for an inventory for ICT, which I had. They asked me for a full inventory of classroom furniture, the number of desks, number of chairs, bookcases, filing cabinets, but also the stuff the departments had, number of textbooks with ISBN numbers and prices, number of microscopes, number of food blenders, everything. It took us 2 to 3 weeks solidly to get that information together for a 400 student school. So if you've got larger schools, I would like to think how long that would take any of you guys to pull that information together. And we set that deadline by the insurance company and the loss adjusters. So it was critical that we had that information. So this is what we're currently in. This is our current report going on. Some of you may have seen these photographs on EduGeek. So that's our main concourse up there in the middle of the building, standard classroom, IT room, library. So they're not your bog standard asbestos-ridden porta cabins that most of us are used to. They did 5 months work in 6 weeks. They were working 12, 13-hour days, 7 days a week to get that in for us. They've got aircon in them, and they're in there. They're really nice units. Last week they started the build on our new school that should be ready come next summer. So I'm involved now in planning meetings to get that in place and move the infrastructure into that. Does anyone have any questions for either myself or for Michael? Yes.
Was there not the possibility of virtualising of the cloud backup servers so that you could have immediate access to like the MIS.
Yeah, wasn't. Did you get that? Did you?
No, I didn't quite get that.
Would it be possible to do things like cloud VM so that when you do back up your MIS, you can actually switch on and access the data?
You mean spin it up in the cloud?
Yeah.
There is functionality to spin up into Azure, AWS, and a lot of service providers do provide that as well. That's something that the market is moving to specifically for backup and DR, because it's all about availability and getting your data back to you as soon as possible. The quickest way to do that is to spin up a virtual machine in 5 minutes and present a virtual image back to that cloud hosting platform, and that's essentially the way things are moving.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.